All right, we're going to look at the second video. So I want you to have the worksheet in front of you that says Vertex Form Part 2. Maybe I printed them two-sided, so check the back of the last one. I'm going to skip down. So questions 1, 2, and 3 are just like the ones we did in the last video. I want to skip down to number 4. And what you'll notice is different in these is that now all of these problems 4 and on have an a value, so a coefficient of x squared that's not 1. So in this case, in number 4, our coefficient of x squared is 2. So that's just going to add a couple things to what we consider when we're doing vertex form. So I'm going to walk you through a few of these. So just like last time, we're going to start by putting our first two terms in parentheses. But now what I need to do is I need to factor out that number. So that 2 that's out there, I'm going to factor it out of just the expression in parentheses. I'm going to leave the 6 alone. So when I factor that, I now have a 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. Negative 8x divided by 2 is negative 4x. All right, and then I'm going to keep my plus 6 hanging out here. Okay, so the next step is just like what we did on the last sheet. We're going to complete the square. So I'm going to keep my 2. I'm going to copy x squared minus 4x. And now I'm going to look at that number, divide it by 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And then I'm going to square it. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. I'm going to write my plus 6. But now I've got one more thing to think about. I didn't really add 4 to this equation. I really added 2 4s because that 2 is acting on everything in parentheses, multiplying everything in parentheses. So what I need to do out to the side is either take away 2 4s or just take away 8, however you like to do it. So I look at that, I'm like, hey, I added 2 4s. I need to undo that by taking away 2 4s. Okay, so the next step is the same. Those are the only things that are different, factoring out the a and then multiplying this by a. The next thing I'm going to do is keep my 2, factor what's inside just like last time, square root of the first term, square root of x squared is x, the sign of the second term, so if that's subtraction, this is subtraction, the square root of the third term, the square root of 4 is 2. I put that in parentheses, squared. And then 6 minus 4 minus 4, or 6 minus 8, is negative 2. So I still just simplify. And this is my vertex form. Oops, f of x equals. All right, let's do a few of these together. Number 5. So I'm going to start off the same. Parentheses are on the first 2. I'm going to factor out the a value. So I'm going to pull a out. In parentheses, I now have x squared. Negative 18x divided by 3 is negative 6x. So the 18 gets the 3 taken out. Let's see, and then I keep the plus 1 out here. Next, I complete that square. I guess you could have done this in the last step, but all right, so negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. And then when I consider what did I add to this equation, I didn't add 9, I added 3 9s. So if I think about it, 3 times 9 is 27. This is really a hidden 27. So I need to subtract 3 9s or subtract 27 to compensate. All right, so now when I go to factor that, the 3 stays the same. I'm going to factor all of my perfect square trinomials the same way. So square root of the first term, sine of the second term, square root of the third term, parentheses squared, and then 1 minus 27 is just negative 26. That's my vertex form. So f of x equals, no, I've not been copying my f of x. All right, let's do 2 more together, or 3. 2 or 3 more together. All right, number 6. I like number 6 because it's negative, so we've got to be careful when we pull out that a value. So I'm going to put parentheses around the first 2. Now when I factor out a, if a is negative, I need to factor out the negative. So I'm going to factor out negative 3, in parentheses, I have x squared. Be careful here. If this is negative 6x, and I factor out a negative 3, negative 6x divided by negative 3 is positive 2x. So I'm going to write plus 2x, not minus 2x. And I'm going to keep my minus 5 hanging out here. So when you get to this step, just in your head, redistribute that negative 3 and make sure you get this. So negative 3 times x squared, negative 3 times positive 2x does get me negative 3x squared minus 6x. All right, now we're going to complete the square. That's the thing that never changes from problem to problem. So x squared plus 2x. I'm going to take that 2, cut it in half. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to add a 1 out there, or in there, rather. And then I've still got my minus 5. And this last step, we got to be careful. I didn't really put a 1 there. I really put a negative 3 times 1. So really, this 1 is deceptively a negative 3, because that negative 3 is acting as a multiplier on everything in parentheses. So if I put a negative 3 in there, I'm going to cancel that or undo that by adding 3 out here. That's the same as subtracting negative 3. So now I've got negative 3. I'm going to keep x, so square root of the first, sine of the second, plus square root of the last. The square root of 1 is 1. So x plus 1 in parentheses squared, negative 5 plus positive 3 is negative 2. That is my vertex form. And if you remember from chapter 9, we could tell that that one is going to be concave down because that 3 is negative, as opposed to the other one next to it, which is concave up. But we'll talk about that soon. Let's do one more together. I know you're really excited. Let's do number 9. Let's practice one more with a negative. In number 9, I've got negative 2x squared plus 4x. So I'm going to stick parentheses around it. Factor out a, so negative 2 on the outside. On the inside, x squared. And then be careful again when we've got that negative. So positive 4x divided by negative 2. 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. So this becomes minus 2x. So anytime you factor that negative, there's going to be a sign change here and here. All right. I keep my plus 6. Next step, I go in and complete that square. So the negative 2 just follows everything now. X squared minus 2x. To complete the square, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, which when squared is positive 1. And then I didn't really add 1 here. I added negative 2 times 1. So this 1 is really a negative 2. So I need to add a positive 2 out here to compensate. All right. Now I'm going to factor that. So square root of the first term, sine of the second term, square root of the third term. So that becomes x minus 1 squared. And then 6 plus 2 is 8. All right. I'm going to leave a key for the other problems with the sub. And I need you to finish these, to check them, and to turn them in. On Friday, we will be taking our mastery test, and we will have time to go over a quick example, and then we'll be taking the test Friday. All right. Have a good one.